This morning we're bringing you the breaking news that WA and the entire country has been waiting for. Little Cleo Smith has been found and she's alive.
It's my privilege to announce that in the early hours of this morning, the Western Australian Police Force rescued Cleo Smith. Cleo is alive and well. One of the officers picked her up into his arms and asked her, "What's your name?" She said, "My name is Cleo." This is the outcome we all hoped and prayed for.
Before we start the podcast this morning, can we just have a huge round of applause, a little bit of a celebration for the West Australian Police and the fact that Cleo Smith has been found.
Reunited with her family.
Can you imagine being reunited after not knowing for more than 2 weeks, nearly 3 weeks?
I actually don't think I have the capacity of allowing myself to feel what that would feel like.
No.
It's a parent's worst nightmare.
So all day yesterday I was getting phone calls, especially after, we did the stranger danger and stranger in a park with a puppy thing on parental guidance the night before, and then the next morning we've got this news. Here's this 4-year-old girl who's been found by WA police. Just yesterday's social media was blowing up in terms of how we keep our kids safe. I was doing radio interviews all around the country. There was so much going on, but I love this quote from one of the police officers who was involved. And this is what he said, and I quote, "We all cried, most definitely. It was an amazing moment. Suddenly, after hearing that, we were on such a high. It was fantastic." When I say hearing that, I mean when they said, "What is your name?" and she said, "My name's Cleo. My name is Cleo." Can you imagine? And all the reports say, unharmed.
Wow.
So
a feel-good story after what could have been absolutely tragic.
What a wonderful blessing. Now, let's get on with the podcast.
It's the Happy Families Podcast. It's the podcast for the time-poor parent who just wants answers now.
But the most disciplined people, the people who are most efficient, most effective, most productive, the ones who get most done, they set up their environment so that they don't need to use self-control.
And now here's the stars of our show, my mum and dad.
I am just hooked. I know that I'm in the show. I know that I was part of the whole filming thing. I know how it all happens. And yet watching parental guidance on Channel 9 has just been... I'm absolutely hooked. How good was last night?
I wasn't really sure whether the children would eat the chocolate or not, but it's not our goal to have obedient children.
When you came home, you showed me tiny little snippets of things.
And I wasn't even supposed to show you them. Sorry, producers, if you're listening.
But honestly, you and I, we've been sitting there each night along with the kids, and we've been crying and we've been laughing. It has been really intense.
And then we mute the ads and the kids just don't stop talking to us about parenting. It's amazing. So much fun. My name's Dr. Justin Coulson, by the way. I'm the host, or co-host, I should say, and parenting expert. I nearly took Ali Langdon's job. I'm not the host. I'm the co-host and the parenting expert on Channel 9's Parental Guidance. Another couple of weeks of action there. And I'm here with Kylie, my wife of more than 2 decades.
You're my husband before you were ever a co-host. Just remember that.
I never would forget it, not for a second. And we're the parents of 6 children, aged from 7 years old up to in their 20s and moved out of home and living life as adults. We need to talk about last night's show. And by the way, I hope you...
What topic do you want to choose? There was so much in last night.
Hope you're enjoying the show, because if you're not, you're going to hate the podcast for the next couple of weeks, because that's all there is to talk about. But we need to talk about it from a science point of view as well. We're not just going to do a recap, as you would have seen this week, where we're talking about a couple of highlights, but then we really pick it apart so that you as a parent can implement useful strategies at home to help your kids do better. So, let's start with the beach tent. Let's just start with the beach tent.
I'm not really 100% sure what to do.
These pegs are very bad, Dad.
Yes, darling, but how's Mum going?
Not good.
Nah, seriously, the only thing I can do is sit here and hold it. I think the gazebo took itself down. Definitely better without the shade, guys.
I've only got one thing to say about it.
I know what you're going to say.
Yeah. How funny was it that the family that live in a tent...
They couldn't put a tent up to save themselves,
they
could
couldn't
they?
put the beach shelter
How did they put their tent up? I'm still trying to work it out.
Oh, that was so good. Sam Thaiday just sits there and says, "How funny is that?" He's not laughing. He's just, "How funny is that?"
But then what was so amazing, watching Andrew and Miriam.
Oh, the strict parents.
And these kids are literally they were just like a well-oiled machine.
Yeah, that was brilliant. Let's talk about the other challenges, though. One that we're not going to touch on today, other than to acknowledge that it happened, was how far do you push your kids. Watching Timothy, Andrew and Miriam's 5-year-old son, climb that rock wall and fall and hurt himself and then try again.
That was inspiring.
Oh, I was sitting there weeping. I'm going,
Yes.
oh gosh! And in the studio when we filmed it, there was a lot of tears. It was a really emotional experience to go through. We're going to talk about how far to push your kids next week because there are more challenges associated with that for our second group of parents. So.
Dun, dun, dun.
We'll hold that off till next week. But the two things that we've got to talk about today. First of all, family photos.
Can we do like a pyramid or do we need too many adults?
Pyramid.
Family photos are generally quite hard work to get them to smile, and in the past, all the photos we've got up our hallway are probably a result of Tony dropping his pants behind camera to try and get a genuine smile out of them.
Just the bottom. Just the bottom.
Oh, guys.
Oh, do you know what? Watching those family photos brought up so many memories for us.
6 kids trying to get family photos to happen. Oh my goodness. And they were actually really good because there were times where we've been getting family photos and the sweat's pouring off us because it's boiling hot and the kids are refusing and we're like, get here now, you're going to smile, so help me, I'm going to make you smile.
Well, and in our kids' defence, we have been in the newspaper numerous times over the years.
Right.
As your business has increased, they've wanted you with your 6 children.
Yeah, it's a bit of a sort of a talking point, isn't it?
On the front page. And so inevitably we would pick the kids up from school of an afternoon and just say, you've got 20 minutes to get dressed, put these outfits on, we're going down to the beach to have some family photos.
Yep.
And they used to roll their eyes like, not again.
We don't care about Dad. We don't care about this business. We don't care about the newspaper. We just want to play with our friends.
But up until we had probably 5 kids, the
Yep.
majority of our photos were in a studio, stiff, starchy portraits. Everyone's got matchy-matchy. And, oh, my goodness,
Matchy-matchy.
hell would break loose because inevitably a toddler or a 4-year-old or a 7-year-old didn't want to smile, did not want to be pushed into, hold your head this way, sit this way, cross your legs that way and be told how to do things. The game changer for us, absolute hands down game changer, was when we found a photographer who just let us free range.
Yeah, and worked with us rather than made us do things their way.
That first time we went to Gerringong at the headland.
Oh, yeah. For those of you who are familiar with the southern, the south coast, those gorgeous cliffs between Gerringong and Kiama, and we just, the views, I mean, it's just stunning.
Absolute game changer. Just watching the kids roll down the hills, play in the long grass.
Yep.
And he just snapped away and got all of these beautiful shots. And what I loved about it, and we've continued to use him over the years, is he gets to capture our kids' personalities.
Yeah.
And their quirks.
Like the time we were at North Gong and Emily, how old was Emily? Like
was
2 or
2.
3. And she decided that she was just going to, in her beautiful dress, lay down in the lagoon, in the water. And
She was waist deep. She'd been playing at the water's edge, just in it with her feet. And the next thing, we've turned around and she's just taken 3 or 4 steps in and she's now waist deep.
photos were fun.
So fun.
Yeah, they weren't at the time. We were like, what are you doing? And then we look back on them and go, oh, that was so gorgeous. Anyway, so hints for family photos. This is not what the podcast is meant to be about, but you've kind of hijacked it. And well done because it's fun. The issue of family photos, you got to get them done. But find a photographer who's willing to work with you outside and just let the kids kind of free range and then just pull them together for a couple of group shots and then you're done.
All right. Well, let's talk about the thing that's probably on everybody's minds this morning.
Our take on the marshmallow challenge. We called it the chocolate test.
We'll be back soon to decorate, so everybody will just leave those alone, okay? And we'll put them on the cake pretty soon. I wasn't really sure whether the children would eat the chocolate or not, but it's not our goal to have obedient children. As nature parents, my goal is to have children that can look at all the information in front of them and make a decision where everybody's needs are met.
But I want to eat one of those.
Later, okay? We'll be back in a bit. Harper is quite honest with us.
Yeah.
We've always tried to encourage discussion with her.
She would not reach an instruction and then tell us, yeah, no, I didn't do anything. When it's no, it's no.
I just want to eat it all. Don't touch Ruffy.
Did any of you eat some of the decorations?
No.
Did you want to eat them?
Yeah, this is what I go to. And then I stop myself.
I'm proud of you.
There was some really, really funny footage in there. Seriously, it was almost like you trained the kids to give you exactly what you wanted. It was amazing.
I love watching Brett and Tony's little guy, and he just 1, 2, and he took more than he said he took. I'm just saying he took a lot more than he was supposed to take.
But then the attachment parents and the little girl, like her fingers literally
when Shaya was doing
hovering
that.
over the bowl.
And then she'd pull it back over her head.
I can't do that. She'd say, and you could just, it was just beautiful. I loved it. But why does self-control actually matter?
Well, let me ask you a question. If you had no self-control when it came to eating, what might happen?
Well, I'd eat until I was full.
Would you?
Yeah.
Really? If you had no self-control? Is that what people do? If you had no self-control at school, what would you do?
I wouldn't do my work.
If you had no self-control at work, how would you go remaining employed?
I probably wouldn't.
If you had no self-control socially, how many friends would you have? I love the way you pretend to think about this. You're so cute. So self-control is critically important. And when we look at the research around this, and there's been a number of long-term studies done on this particular topic, I'm getting scientific about it because it matters. The data shows that kids who have learned how to regulate their emotions and their behaviours, that is, who know how to operate with self-control, they make better academic progress than their peers who don't have the same level of self-control. They have better mental health. They have better social relationships. They have better physical outcomes. They're more likely to exercise.
Okay, I get the picture.
No,
I get it.
This matters. The kids that don't have self-control are the ones who are more likely to experiment with drugs because they're uninhibited. They just go for it and say, oh, whatever, let's just do it. They're more likely to get injured. They're more likely to end up with criminal records because they don't inhibit, and self-control is the critical underpinning thing here. People with more self-control tend to generate more wealth because they've got that discipline. Across every aspect of life, self-control helps us to live better lives and have better outcomes. So that's why self-control matters. Can you tell how much self-control a child's got and how successful they'll be in life by whether they eat a marshmallow or a chocolate? Of course you can't. There's so much more to it than that. But self-control is critically important for success in life.
So after the break, let's talk about 7 ways that we can help build self-control in our kids.
It's the Happy Families podcast.
Imagine a home where discipline got results without anyone having to feel bad or in trouble. The Do's and Don'ts of Discipline is a webinar to help parents set limits with love, compassion and humanity. Find it now at happyfamilies.com.au/shop.
It's the Happy Families podcast, the podcast for the time poor parent who just wants answers now. And today we have been reminiscing and reflecting on parental guidance last night. Today we've been talking about self-control.
Let's wash our hands and we can...
I ate one.
Did you eat one?
You ate one? What did you eat?
All right, let's...
Oh, okay.
So you ate one, Timothy. You weren't supposed to eat any. Did anyone else eat one? Okay, all right.
How we build it in our kids. So there's some pretty good science around this.
Emily's asking to do the marshmallow challenge.
Oh, right. Of course, she just wants to eat marshmallows.
She also wants to go to the restaurant and eat snails.
Right. I missed that conversation.
Yes, you did. It was on the way to school.
Oh, right. Okay, because the kids in the show ate snails, so now she wants to eat. Oh, gee. We need to communicate clearly with her that she's not to eat snails out of the garden.
Oh, no.
We need to have that conversation with her. Self-control, Kylie. She needs some self-control when it comes to the snails.
Okay, let's get serious.
Yeah, and in the interest of time, because this is the podcast for the time poor parent who just wants answers now, and we're kind of stretching the friendship. So let's get into it.
All right, well, you promised you've got 7 tips.
Okay.
What's the first one?
We're going to go through them quickly. The first one is out of sight, out of mind.
You know, I loved when the challenge was set last night.
Yep.
That the nature parents...
Oh, Richard and Lynn. They cleared out.
They literally just walked away.
Yeah, that's right. And so no one's tempted because they're not in front of the chocolate. And it's really interesting because when you look at the science around this, like, actually, let me speak personally and then I'll go to the science. I'm a pretty disciplined person. I mean, I've written a whole bunch of books. And
that's why you've got a cupboard full of chocolate.
I do not have... I've eaten it all. It's gone. There's no
self-control.
Well, but here's the thing. I see cake or ice cream and my extraordinary levels of self-discipline, they just leave the building.
So then you can't say you've got self-discipline.
No, that's what people say. But the most disciplined people, the people who are most efficient, most effective, most productive, the ones who get most done, they set up their environment so that they don't need to use self-control.
See, I can have a cupboard full of chocolate, and as long as I don't see it, it can sit there for months.
So long as I don't
see it. The problem is once I open it...
Yes. You'll eat a whole packet.
I will.
On your own. What were you saying about self-control? Out of sight, out of mind. And that's where Richard and Lyndon really nailed it last night with their nature parenting. They just said, let's go for a walk. And now it's
not an issue.
Not an issue. Second one, when we look at the initial Walter Mischel marshmallow experiment from Stanford from back in the 1960s, what the researchers have found as they've gone back and reanalyzed the data, done similar tests and all that kind of thing, is that kids who have parents who say, hey, do this and then I'll give you that, and then the parent doesn't follow through, like if there's inconsistency on the parent's part, the kids learn not to trust adults. So if you say, and this is what happened in the chocolate test, but self-control is based on that whole marshmallow test thing. If you haven't seen it, by the way, just Google it, watch the videos. They're very funny. If you say to a child, hey, if you don't eat this marshmallow, when I come back shortly, I'll give you 2 so long as this one hasn't been eaten. Well, if they've got a track record of dealing with adults who don't come good on their promises, they're going to be like, as if I'm going to wait. Because I'm not going to get a second marshmallow. I'm always told that I get stuff and I don't. That marshmallow's going down the gob straight away. So we've got to make sure that we're consistent, we're truthful, that we follow through on what we promise the kids. That's the second step for building self-control. Third one?
It's my favourite. Gentle reminders.
Gentle reminders. Yeah. So when this works really well with our youngest child who does have some additional needs and needs some additional support. When she's drawing pictures off her favourite YouTube channel, or when she's watching TV, we just say, hey, remember, what did we say when this one's over? And we just do that quick, gentle reminder. And she's a dream. She has enormous amounts of self-control so long as we step in and we just offer those little pokes and prods without controlling things, but just giving that reminder.
I check in with her and I'll just say, how long's it got? And she'll go, 4 minutes.
Yeah, done.
And just those gentle reminders to remind her what's happening.
And that's it. That's all you've got to do. That sort of stuff helps them to control themselves better.
Number 4.
So play games that teach self-control. Our favourite game in our family is 21.
1.
2.
3.
Well, it's not very. It's pretty easy with just
4,
2 of
5,
us.
6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12.
Right. So basically the idea is so long as you've got more than 2 people, 3 or 4 people, especially with kids, is you've got to count to 21. And if I say 1, the next number obviously is 2. But if we say it at the same time, if we both say the same number, you've got to go back to 1 again. And the more people that are involved, the harder it is to get this right. And it really becomes a question of self-control. How long can you inhibit the number from coming out of your mouth? The kids love this game. It's so much fun, but it's actually a self-control game. Other games that are fun to teach self-control are games that are like... and then you get somebody to copy it. And they've got to control themselves. They've got to listen. Or you can do some drumming sort of games. I remember games like Red Light, Green Light, where people have got to learn how to stop and start, sleeping lions, all these kinds of regulatory games that help kids to just stop and think and then move again. Freeze. Remember when we used to play freeze or musical statues?
What about What's the Time, Mr. Wolf?
Same thing. Yeah. And the kids take those steps forward and then they've got to stop and they've got to be nice and still.
So what's number 5?
Okay. So this one's a really big one. It's about motivation. Like, you're going to be more controlled. You're going to have more inhibition, more self-regulation if you are motivated to do something internally. That is, if you actually want to do it, if it's part of what you're about. If you're doing it because someone else told you to do it, then you're not going to control yourself particularly well. Simple case in point, if you don't really care that much about the speed limit, you're not going to obey it because you've got no intrinsic motivation to do it, except when the police are around. And sometimes as parents, we become the police. And so the kids do as they're told when we're around because they don't want to get into trouble, but they don't have any intrinsic desire to do it. And so our job is to, and I guess this sort of segues into the next self-control idea, is to support our children's autonomy by saying, hey, what do you reckon a good rule around this would be? Why would that be a good rule? How can we make sure that we make this happen? So we're giving the kids the opportunity to develop rules, develop guidelines, develop ways forward to incorporate effective boundaries and limits, in other words, effective controls into their own lives that they've intrinsically recognised as being good.
I don't know if this is on your list or not, but I would have to think that being a model is probably one of the most important things if we want to help our children learn self-control.
Yeah, our example, that was actually the last one, the seventh of 7 things on my list, thank you very much, was being a model. Because if we fly off the handle, guess what we teach the kids?
That it's okay to fly off the handle?
Yeah, that's exactly right. And
what about if your cupboard's full of chocolate?
My cupboard's not full of chocolate. You can go over there and have a look. I promise you there's no chocolate.
That's because you ate it all.
Ages ago when I decided that I was going to have more control and not buy it and put it in the cupboard. I promise you there's no chocolate in the cupboard.
That's because you buy it and eat it before you come home, so I don't know.
I promise you. I don't even like chocolate much.
All right, well, let's wrap up.
Mm-hmm.
We've got a couple of nights where we can go to bed early.
Right.
Parental guidance isn't airing again until next Monday.
Can't wait for next Monday night.
Nor could our kids.
Yeah, I know. No chocolate, by the way. Too much chocolate this week around the parental guidance television set.
Well, hopefully this has given you a bunch of ideas on how you can help your kids develop self-control, maybe even you.
Oh, yeah, thank you for that. The Happy Families podcast is produced by Justin Ruan from Bridge Media. Craig Bruce is our executive producer. If you'd like more info about making your family happier, please join us at happyfamilies.com.au.